So now we're going to look at the mitzvah. Today we're going to talk about the mitzvah of Seder night. Okay, Seder night, first of all, it's a long night, and it starts late. Like they talk about people making early Shabbos, you can't make early Pesach. The reason that you can't make early Pesach is all the mitzvot of the night have to be done after it gets dark, and we start off with Kiddush. Kiddush is the first of the cups. So that's why we can't. Like on Shabbos, we can say make Shabbos early and take in Shabbos early and make Kiddush when it's early, and that's fine. But on Pesach, you can't do that. So in any case, you're starting late. Okay, it has to be. We wait to the davening. It's also a long davening. There's Hallel in davening. It's a long davening, and then you're just starting the Seder when you come back late. I'll pause every once in a while, okay?
Okay, sorry.
Now, the halacha says everything that should be set up, because you're starting so late, whatever, everything should be set up before, everything should be ready. You should be able to come in and go right into the Seder. I think everyone should pace themselves in terms of eating in the afternoon. The halacha, the Gemara says, the Mishnah says one should not eat from the time of Mincha. Then the Tosfot say we're not really talking about eating. We're talking about things like we're talking about that. It's not matzah because we said that matzah was like sleeping with the fiance. It's not chametz because chametz is forbidden. So it's talking about all sorts of things like cakes made with matzah meal, things like that, that those shouldn't be eaten in the afternoon. But everything else, all the fruits, vegetables, meat, and things like dairy products, things like that, all can be eaten. And when the Mishnah was writing that, we were living in a very different sociological time when people ate 2 meals a day, and there was no such thing as snacking. So if you ate a meal at 4 o'clock, you weren't going to be hungry at 10 p.m., right? Okay. Today, everyone should think it's a long night till you get up to the meal. It's a long time. So definitely, especially if you're having to think beforehand, and I don't advise you to go in on an empty stomach. Okay. I mean, I always have out in my house, I put out like a big pan of hot dogs, French fries, and bananas. And let everybody, and then the kids come in and out, and everyone eat what you want to eat. But you really don't want to go into, you could be lighting candles like around 6 and then not eating until around 11. So think about that. Okay? We say everything should be ready. So first of all, we have the Seder plate. Who doesn't have this handout that I gave? Those who are in my class have it. Those who are in my previous Pesach classes should have it. It's the same one. Okay, but there's a lot of good information here. Okay, and that's why I asked Leah to make new ones. So I said even the ones who were in my class, a lot of them probably it got lost somehow or other. Okay, now you see here, okay, you see here the Seder plates. There are 3 different customs of Seder plate. Most people use this one, the one on the left, which is the Ari, but they're all okay. Now, a Seder plate is how it's arranged. It does not have to physically be a plate. If you want to just like take little salad kind of dishes and arrange them in that shape, it's okay. You don't need an official Seder plate, okay? Even though it's a beautiful piece of Judaica very often, but you don't have to have the official Seder plate. You can just do it like that. But you see what we have? We have the matzah. I've never seen a Seder plate with an actual place for matzah like that, but I do have one which is, it's like 3-tiered. So like the top tier is the plate itself, and then when it says open, cover the matzah's dough, so it has like curtains. So it's very easy to open and close, but you can. Okay, we have 3 matzahs. This is the opinion of the Ari that most people follow. The Vilna Gaon use 2 matzahs. So the people who follow those customs use only 2 matzahs. The reason that those who say 3, which is the more mainstream opinion, is because many other areas. So that's why you have the difference. So most people have three, but if you see someone having two, know that that's the reason for it. Okay, questions until now?
So the davening for the Seder is long, but that's Marv and that's for men, right? Or
Women are exempt from Mariv, but the men are going to, unless you have an all women Seder, it's going to start late. Okay, and now you have the other thing. So you have the shank bone. Shank bone is a zroa. It's a bone which has been roasted or just like, put into a fire like that. It symbolizes the Korban Pesach. The main mitzvah of Pesach night is the Korban Pesach. Sadly, we don't have that today. So we have this to commemorate it. It's very nice to use a lamb bone because that's what used, but if you don't have a lamb bone, you can use any animal bone. This is not like strict halacha in any case. So there are vegans who use other things instead. Okay, since this isn't really a Korban Pesach. If it was a Korban Pesach, vegans would get curried for not doing the Korban Pesach.
Whoa.
Yeah, okay? Vegans must do the Korban Pesach. This is a remembrance. We can be more lenient, but I know somebody, vegan friends of ours, who asked us to roast one to make one for them. And then the husband came to pick it up and he said, wrap it in 5 pieces of tin foil and about 8 bags because our house is vegan and we don't want to, if we get something fresh, that would be really terrible. So we wrapped it up in a zillion things, but it was, but he did it. We have an egg. The egg represents the Korban Chagiga, the festival sacrifice, which was really used for the bulk of the meal, for a lot of it. The common with the Korban Pesach is even at the end. This was the bulk of the meal. It was a meat we to commemorate it, we use the egg. And the egg also is a sign of mourning because we're mourning for the temple. So it's an egg which has also been roasted. But you can, it's easier for you, can just, if you're scared to play around with the roasted egg, you can just first hard boil an egg and then stick it into the oven so it gets, not into the oven, like a burner or something, or coals, so it gets a bit, okay, that's the. We have the maror, we'll talk about soon about what the maror is. The karpas. Karpas is the vegetable that we're going to dip. You all learn, I saw in the Yom Iyun, you have a lot of things about these, so we're just doing the technicals here, and a lot about the Seder and how it works. The karpas is a vegetable which is eaten, okay, kadesh or chatz, okay, we kiddush, we wash, and then the karpas, okay? The karpas is a vegetable which is dipped. The Shulchan Aruch says you can use vinegar or salt water for it. What? Vinegar or salt water. You can use any vegetable which is not maror, which wouldn't be kosher for maror. So that gives us anything which you say borei pri ha'adama, which is not maror. Okay, so you can take anything and do it. Ashkenazim are machmir not to eat more than a kazayit here, but unlike a kazayit of matzah, here we say, oh, kazayit, that's that big, because that's the size of an olive. So we're going machmir the other way for kazayit. So Ashkenazim eat a really, really tiny piece, okay? It can be whatever vegetable. Celery is very easy to cut into such small pieces, but it can literally be any vegetable which is not maror. Some people use bananas.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I was going to ask that you can use anything at Adama.
Borei pri adama, which is not kosher for maror.
What do you mean?
Not something which you can make maror on.
Oh, I see.
You can't use lettuce, for example. Right. But anything which is not maror.
You use a tomato.
You can use what?
A tomato.
A what?
Tomato.
Yeah, why not?
It just seems so foreign. Wow.
Tomatoes are probably good because you have those really small cherry tomatoes.
That's yummy.
And then everyone gets one. That's a very nice idea.
People do potatoes a lot.
Potatoes, people do potatoes. People do celery because it's easy, because it's just easy to cut into very small pieces. For Ashkenazim, Sfardim don't have this chumrah. It's hard if you need a whole potato or something. but
Yeah.
okay, but that's the karpas. So that's a really easy one. Come on, okay. Haroset. Haroset reminds us of the mortar they made bricks out of. There are different, different halacha books. There are recipe suggestions, but none of them are halacha. It's customary to put in wine. The Yerushalmi talks about putting in ginger because ginger, when it's crumbled, looks like straw. And like the Midrash says that they had to take their straw to make it. So when you cut up ginger, it's very straw looking. But these are all customs. Some have the custom of using the things that were mentioned in Shir Hashirim, apples and dates and wine and things like that. But there's no official recipe for it. It's also only used for dipping. And when the halacha says to dip, we're talking about dip and wipe. Okay, that you're not getting it. So if you take a piece of maror, you're dipping it, and then you wipe, it says that you wipe it off, like that. Okay, so it's not. Later during the meal, there are people who really like charoset. So during the meal, you can eat whatever you want. You can eat it like a whole bowl of charoset. But on the maror, it's just to like sort of cut it's what the Gemara seems to be insinuating that there's something not healthy about it. And then the karpas sort of cuts that. Okay, but it's just like, but we also don't want to take away from the taste of the maror, so that's wiped up. And like I said, anyone who wants can eat as much charoset as they want the whole rest of the holiday. Okay, so that's what's on this Seder plate. Matzahs. Everyone's going to have to eat a lot of matzah. We'll talk about how much, but you can decide how you want to do it. In some places, with one Seder plate, the person who's like the head of the Seder, it's in front of them, and they have their 2 or 3 matzahs there. In other places, there are a few different Seder plates in different places, and in some places, every one or every couple or every group of people or something like that have matzah. In any case, there always has to be a lot of matzah on the side to make up enough for everyone to eat the kazayit, but how it's set up is a very individual thing, and you can, decide that. There are all kinds of customs. There are those who decorate the table with all kinds of greenery and things. It's Chag HaAviv. So there are people who use like all kinds of greenery to sell it, all kinds of things. These are all customs. How do we sit at the Seder? So we have a concept called haseba, to lean. This is an obligation of the Seder for certain parts of the Seder. Some say for most of the Seder, and they're just exceptional parts of the Morah that we don't. Which brings us to a very interesting question. Are women obligated in Haseba or not? Haseba is to show that we are free. And, we're free, we're not slaves to anyone. So, for example, a slave or even a servant does not do Haseba in front of their master because they're not really free. However, if it's just you're an apprentice, it's just a job, then you do because you're free. You can quit your job. You can, and this brings us to women. The Shulchan Aruch has an interesting comment, and the Shulchan Aruch says important women should read. Isha Chashuba, where anyone can decide for themselves what's important. The Ramah, the Ashkenazi, very politically correctly says all our women are important, but our minhag is that women don't read.
Wait, who says that important women should read?
The Shulchan Aruch.
Oh,
But it's based on like earlier texts.
I'm writing.
That's the halach.
Better lean Tova.
What?
Tova has to lean. She's very important.
You're so sweet.
Right, so
I want to be a servant
important
to my
women
husband,
have to
so-
lean. You can decide for yourself. I would tell you to say people who are like not making their own seders. I would say say a bli neder if you're going to lean because sometimes you're going to be in a place where it's not sneistic to be the only woman leaning. Right? Not sme, in the sense of sneist, but in the sense of weird, okay? So, no, I'm serious. So you should definitely do it. So say bli neder if don't take it on until you have your own home to know, just so that you shouldn't get into uncomfortable situations. There were a bunch of feminists who put out pillows that were printed with this phrase from the Shulchan Aruch. It says, Isha chashuba by haseba, the Gemara in Aramaic, and important women should do haseba. My son actually wanted to buy it for me. And then my daughter-in-law said, a really important woman doesn't have a pillow that says it. And she went to Fox Home and she bought me like a gold and silver embroidered pillow just to use for Pesach. She said, that's what an important woman should have. Yeah. And I said, wanted to buy me, and she said, that if you're really important, you don't do that.
Smart lady, smart lady.
Yeah, he's a good daughter-in-law. Okay. Okay, so that's Haseba, and it is. Now, the truth is, that's not, when we're talking about Haseba in the Gemara, we are not talking about people sitting at a crowded modern dining room table and sort of going like that with a pillow behind their back, because that's not reclining, and that's not free, and that's not comfortable, and it's just, right, weird, which is why the Ramah is saying that women base themselves on the Ravya, who was one of the Rishonim, who said that this isn't really haseba. It doesn't make you feel free. It's uncomfortable. It's weird. And women don't have to take it on because shouldn't apply to anyone today. I can't say that men don't. And if it was up to him, he would say men shouldn't either. He said women do. In my family, we have we actually recline. Everyone has, little futons and beanbag chairs, and we would put everything around, and everyone literally has like their reclining.
Wow.
We have that, and then like in the middle is like one, like a sort of like a round, like sort of like a coffee kind of table. And I have like little ones, and everyone has their carrot there. If it was up to my husband, we would also eat the meal like that. But I said, these little kids are not going to be able to eat soup like that. So we have a table, like a conventional dining room table set up in the corner for the meal for those who want. My husband stays on his couch reclining, and so, but that's how we do Seder in my house. Okay, so those are Haseba. Women are obligated in the Mitzvot of Pesach night. Matzah is a Torah mitzvah, and the reason that women are obligated in the matzah is because the pasuk says together, do not eat chametz, eat matzah. And we have a rule, like in Shabbos, that when a positive and a negative come together, whoever is obligated in the negative, which is women, of course, are obligated not to eat chametz, are also obligated in the positive. So because of that, women are obligated equally to men to eating matzah. Moreover, even though it's rabbinic at a time when we don't have the Korban Pesach, but it's based on them eating it with the matzah, so women are also obligated in the maror. The 4 cups of wine is rabbinic, but when the rabbis instituted certain mitzvot, the 3 mitzvot that we're talking about here are 3 rabbinic holiday mitzvot. One is the Hanukkah candles, 2 is the mitzvot of Purim, and the 3rd is the 4 cups of wine on Seder night. They said women should be obligated because women were, the phrase that they use is af hena yubel tohanes. They too were part of the miracle. And there's a difference between the Rishonim. What does that mean? Does it mean that they were important in the miracle, like, important characters, meaning Esther and the Purim story, and then Chana and Yehudit in the Purim Hanukkah story, and then Yocheved and Miriam in the Pesach story? Or does it mean that they were needy of a miracle in the same way that the men do? That's a difference of opinion, but everybody agrees that women are obligated in all of these mitzvot. So the Seder night, women are obligated. Of course, the big mitzvah is Haggadah, to tell the story. The pasuk says he got to tell a bincha, but the Mishnah says somebody who has a son, you tell it to their son. If it's a couple, they tell it. And if a person is alone, he has to ask himself the questions and answer the questions. And even a person alone has to say the Haggadah. The mitzvah of Pesach night is to tell the story. It's not, the mitzvah of Pesach night is not to give all these brilliant vorts and vartoras. The mitzvah is to tell the story in a way that will be appropriate for the people at the Seder. So for some yeshivas, people that will be. And then you have a lot of Seders with children and all kinds of people. And the most important thing is, first of all, if there are parents to tell their children, grandchildren. So the Seder will be. I definitely advise all of you, especially those who, like me, have some ADD, get a good Haggadah. Good Haggadah meaning a Haggadah that will hold your interest. Every couple of years, get a new one. Okay? So that at times when you feel that the pace of the Seder isn't so appropriate to you, you're still learning the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim from a good Haggadah. Okay? There's great stuff, both in Hebrew and in English, and like literally hundreds of thousands of good Haggadahs. So definitely I would advise everybody to, there's also stuff you can download from the internet in print. So I definitely would advise people to have a Haggadah that they feel good with. Okay, questions before I go on? We begin with Kaddish. Kiddush, the cup of wine which is going to be used for Kiddush, is the first of the 4 cups, which means that it's different than every Kiddush. Because normally you have the person who's making Kiddush, and he has a cup of wine, and from that cup of wine he drinks, he has to drink, a shear, but then he gives just little sips to other people. Here, because it's one of the 4 cups and everybody is obligated, everybody has a cup of wine before them. And this wine has to be a shear, it has to be proper, it has to be the right amount. Now, what is the feel of what is it? Each cup the cup itself has to be a revit. Revit is probably around 3 ounces or a little bit less than 90 milliliters. There are definitely more strict opinions, but this is pretty much the mainstream opinion. Okay, we can buy stuff. If you don't know, then measure. And you have to drink rove. You have to drink the majority of that cup. No matter how, so choose a cup based on how much you want to. I mean, it can't be smaller than a revit. But if you don't want to drink more than the majority of a revit, don't choose a very big cup. At the Pamit store here, they have really beautiful disposable, but you can't tell that they're disposable. I mean, from far away, you can touch them, of course you can. But a lot of them say on the packaging exactly how big they are. Okay, and otherwise you have things at home, then take a measuring cup and measure how much it is, but choose a cup which suits your needs.
So you have to fill up the cup even if it's small.
Correct, right. That's why choose a cup. Yeah.
Lots of water down the line.
Oh, okay, great. So first we're talking about the amount. Now let's talk about what can you use for this. And the truth is that in halacha we sort of have a hierarchy of what is within what's kosher. Definitely, as always in halacha, a person should never be endangering themselves to keep halacha. So somebody for whom even the minimum thing that I will tell you here will be dangerous to their health, we'll discuss with the halachic authority the best way for them to do it. Okay? So that's first of all. Okay? And it shouldn't have to be said, but it has to be said. Nobody should be endangering their physical or mental health for this. Okay? So that's first of all. Now, the best thing, first of all, it's preferable red over white. But when the halacha is talking about white, It doesn't mean like what we call blanc, which is like totally white. It can even be what we call rosé, anything that has some redness to it. And it can even be that you took white wine and you put in a little bit of red wine and made your own blend to do that. If somebody totally dislikes red wine and only likes white wine, it's preferable to them to use white wine. But if they can do it with a rosé or a couple of drops, that's good. Like I said, if somebody is totally whatever by red wine, they could use white.
It's just a question that popped in my head. What if like you're in your first trimester, anything that like you eat, like
Okay, so let me go on. Let me finish the hierarchy. Okay, so that's that. There are differences of opinions between people, not only for the four kosel, but every time you have a mitzvah, if it should be mevushal, not mevushal. So you should do whatever your custom is here. You have to be careful because there are many people who have a custom that at the Seder you don't pour your own wine, that everyone pours it for someone. If at your Seder there will be people who, for halachic reasons, you don't think should be pouring wine, either do not do that minhag or use mevushal wine. But definitely don't do it in a way that you're not making a Seder in order to hurt people. So figure out the way to do it, okay? So, but definitely it's preferable to, it's a minhag, okay? It's not a minhag, it's not even written, and so don't do that minhag if there are going to be people who are offended, or if using Mavusha wine is going to do what's going to work, okay? But be wise, okay? And sometimes you have to just be very sensitive to people's needs, and this is one of those times that you have to be very sensitive. There are people who prefer not using sugared wine for this, sweet wine.
Wow.
And there are people who prefer that. What?
Why? Like, what's the basis?
That in halacha, sweet wine is considered because you've added to it. So it's not pure, it's not really wine. It's like, okay, and come on, if you go to like, one of these, the wine, the meadows for the great wines, you go to great wineries, you're not going to get the syrupy wine that like whatever. But if that's what you feel better drinking, and because remember, it's still a lot. So definitely you have to pace yourself and think what works for you. The next best thing is to have a mixture of wine and grape juice where the majority is wine. You can even buy them here. There used to be one that was called 60-40. And then there is there's one called Moria Light and another one called Efrat Kal. Basically what they do is they take really bad Kiddush wine and they mix it with really bad grape juice. I mean, it's like really not something that I that whatever, but if that's what works for you. Kedem, the American company, actually has a line of low alcohol wines, which are not bad. Okay, I mean that's just my taste, but like it's okay, but they do have these things that are whatever, and it's totally kosher to be drinking full grape juice, 100% grape juice. Having 100% grape juice, preferably red if you can, or rosé, but if not, then white. 100% you have fulfilled the mitzvah. Okay, to get back to your question, Hadar, if none of those work for you, then you have to consult the halachic authority. If even grape juice diluted with water, majority grape juice, if that doesn't work, then you're going to have to discuss that with the halachic authority. Okay? And like I said, if anyone knows that it would be endangering to their health, they don't even have, it's obvious that they don't have to. Yeah.
So I could do like 51% grape juice, 49% water for each glass if I had to.
If that's what, people for all sorts of reasons, if it's blood sugars, all sorts of things like that, But again, don't make sure that works for you. Okay? The Kedem also has a low sugar.
Oh.
They have a low sugar one, which is low sugar, low carb. Okay, which that, I know some people who use that diluted, okay? So it's worth looking into.
Is there a preference between like 60-40 of like good wine and grape juice versus sugary wine? Like, does that make a difference?
If you normally use that, if you normally do it for your kosher mitzvah.
Okay.
Okay? But some people don't. Some people, most people, many people use like the off syrupy stuff for Kiddush generally. So, okay, yes. You're in the end? No. Okay.
No.
Okay, so that's the wine. Now the 4 cups of wine each are one of the cups. The first one is the cup of Kiddush. The second is the cup of the Haggadah. The third is the cup of Hallel. I'm sorry, the third is the cup of benching, and the fourth is the cup of Hallel. Okay, so each one has to be, and each one the same rules apply. There is a custom, more kept by Sephardim than Ashkenazim, of washing the cup between each of that each time you're coming with a clean cup. But
Who
you
does
see
that,
people
Sephardim or
doing it.
Ashkenazim?
What?
Who does that?
More, it's actually it's in the halacha books for everyone. But Sephardim are more makpid on it usually than Ashkenazim. No, a lot of Ashkenazim. Also, if you see people doing it, it's not weird. It has halachic basis to do it. Okay? Most people say, because we don't do it today, and we don't wash our up, so like you have what to rely on if you don't do it. But I don't want to tell you all these customs so you don't think people are like crazy for doing all sorts of things like this. Okay, so those are the second cup. One of the things that we're going to do is we do the 10 plagues, right? We take our finger and we do it, and that cup should be refilled. Okay. If we're in a different year, I would tell you don't use Shemitah wine here. Yeah.
When we're doing the 10 plays, how are we supposed to do it? Because I've done it on a napkin and then you chuck the napkin to the bin, but other people do it differently.
It doesn't matter. You can do it on whatever. Most people do it on a saucer.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
don't lift your finger.
What?
Just can't lift your finger. After.
Right, but you do it on like saucers, whatever, whatever. Yeah, you do it like that, and like I said, don't use Shemitah wine because you're wasting it and you're not drinking it. Okay, so that's the wine. The wine, as everything we have to eat and drink during the Seder, should be done in, according to the more machmir opinions, 4 minutes, according to the more lenient opinions, 8 or 9 minutes. So again, when you're choosing your beverage of choice, choose something that'll work for you to do it, okay?
Does it matter if you have like the first one wine and then the
No,
rest of them grape?
No, you're allowed to do that. You're absolutely allowed to do that. Some people, I mean, my husband's minhag is that he does the last two of a better wine, so you can also say Baruch Hatov v'Hametiv. And so yeah, so I have to find. Yeah, okay, but you can definitely do that accordingly, and you can see, or some people prefer the opposite, starting with grape juice so that they're more for the Haggadah, and then already the end is the end. But these are all very personal preferences. Okay, let's jump ahead. Haggadah, okay, because you're doing the Seder, the whole Seder and all that. I saw you have a lot of different takes on it from your different teachers at the Yom Iyun. So here we just talking technicalities. Haggadah, like I said, the Haggadah is to tell the story, but even within the Haggadah, the Mishnah says that we start by asking questions. Manishtana. And that even if somebody, first of all, it says that somebody who has if there's a child, the child should ask. It does not say anywhere in any source that has to be the youngest child there. Okay, no source for that. A lot of people do it, and maybe it makes less fights or things like that, but it's not a halachic concept. Definitely you can have a few children doing it together or one after the other if that's what they want to do. You have to pace yourself, especially when you have a Seder with children. You have to pace yourself. What we do in our family, like again, we're sitting around the circle, is I bring out my aerobic step, and that's like whoever's standing on that. No, if somebody's standing on that and singing or saying something, nobody else is allowed to talk. So that's what works for us. Okay, but everyone has to figure out what works for them. Some places everyone sings, like I said, whatever. Some places also, assuming that the child or other people there don't speak Hebrew so well, it can be said in any language, which is understood. Okay, definitely, I recommend people whose Hebrew isn't great, get a Haggadah in a language that you understand. And then we say the Haggadah. The Haggadah is telling the story of leaving Mitzrayim. And within here, we have, Aran Gamliel says, Kol shelo amar shlosha dvarim, that someone who did not say these three things has not fulfilled his obligation. And they are explaining the Pesach, the Paschal Lamb, the matzah, why we eat matzah, and maror. This is the minimum answer of the Seder. Okay, this is minimum. Obviously, we're saying this is long Haggadah. What are we saying this? Because throughout Jewish history, there have been times, and I don't know what's going to be by Pesach now. There are times when Jews could not make a whole Seder. They didn't have time. There's I can't get through it without crying. There's a beautiful, but I can't get through it without crying. Go into YouTube, the last Pesach in the Warsaw Ghetto. And it's about this little boy and his father, and they're the only ones who survived so far from their family. And the Warsaw Ghetto uprising was Erev Pesach, and they didn't know if anyone would survive. And the son asked the Manishta, I can't use that right. The son asked the Manishtana, and he said, I have one more question. Next year, will I be here to say Manishtana? Will you be here? He said, Abadim Hayinu, and the father said, I don't know. I don't know if I'll be here. I don't know if you'll be here, but I do know that there will be a Jewish boy who says Manishtana, and there will be a Jewish father who answers Abadim Hayinu. And this was... But this has happened. This has happened throughout. Rav Moshe Feinstein tells that the communists who were trying to erase Judaism used to take the students, all the school kids from kindergarten, and they would take them on these long school trips on Erev Pesach on purpose. And they would bring them back late at night. He says he remembers. They had to go, otherwise they'd be arrested. And he remembers his parents giving him matzah and saying to him, Pesach matzah maror, and he grew up to be Rav Moshe Feinstein, like from nothing. Okay, he didn't have Seder, he just had his piece of parents saying it. He said he always remembered that, and I said he grew up to be Rav Moshe Feinstein. It was, and there are stories, but there are stories all the time. And in the year 2001, there was the Park Hotel. And the Park Hotel was a very big terrorist attack in a hotel in Netanya, had a Seder. And it was a very bad terrorist attack because it was in a closed room and a lot of explosives, and the hospitals got a lot of wounded. And the doctor said that between surgeries, they just were people gave them little bits of grape juice and wine and read the Haggadah to them. Like every time they scrubbed, they read it. And like these aren't just stories. Last year, 2 years, I don't remember anymore. Last year or 2 years ago, my son, who's now still in Lebanon, but he was there, and he's in a pretty covert unit, and they said they're not letting usually you have the army bases, you have army rabbis who come, but this was a place that was also there, was whatever, they said we're not letting anybody who's not, and was not part of this unit in. And they said to my son, well, in civilian life, you're a 12th grade Rebbe, so like you should be able, 18-year-olds, these are 19, you should be able to make the Seder. But that night, then he's like, he's sitting there and he's preparing. And that night they said, okay, but we have a mission and you have 20 minutes to do the Seder.
Oh my gosh.
So... when you come back, you can. There are a lot of missions also are within within the Yudan Shomron. A lot of times Pesach nights, because that's when they're off, and that's when they catch a lot of terrorists. So, and like when it happens near me, a lot of times they'll say the Chayalim are going to be coming back. People who can, like either bring them into the house or else bring food for them and do a short whatever, because they're coming back. I remember one year, so a long time ago, my son was not himself, but his name is Eliah. And they said that, we were one of the families, we said, we'll come, whatever. And they said someone came and they said, they're coming back now, so bring it. And like we saw coming like from far down the road, they were coming in a Jeep with these red and yellow flashing lights. And my son was there saying, It's Eliyahu Navi. It's the chariot of fire. He was like sure that we went out to that Eliyahu Navi because he saw the red. Like who else is going to travel with red and yellow flashing lights? But this is what it is, and throughout the times, and I mean now I don't know if the war is going to be over by Pesach or not, and but this is it. So this is kosher lo amar shosha dvarim elu b'Pesach. This is the minimum Haggadah, but the more you tell Hareza Mishubach, the more you tell the Seder, it's better. That's why, and that's why we have all these wonderful Haggadahs, and we have all these wonderful Haggadahs with all kinds of Mefarshim, but it's not just telling Mefarshim, it's telling what you feel you have to tell, how you feel you're going to get it across. Okay, matzah. What is matzah, or what matzah has to be used? On the first night of Pesach at the Seder, or the first 2 nights if you're outside of Israel, the eating matzah is a mitzvah. It's a Torah commandment to eat matzah. The Chazon Ish says this is the only mitzvah that we have when there's no Beit HaMikdash. This is the only mitzvah we have to specifically eat something. During the Beit HaMikdash, there's all kinds of things with korbanos. So when there's no Beit HaMikdash, the only Deoraita, Torah mitzvah that we have to specifically eat something is this. So let's go ballistic and see how machmir we can get. For people who are healthy and can handle it, go for it. However, you can definitely minimalize, and like I said, nobody should be endangering themselves. This is not a Yareg Ba'al Yahabor. Nobody should be endangering themselves. So, first of all, matzah, as we said, is flour from the 5 grains, wheat, barley, oats, rye, spelt, which has been mixed with water and only water, nothing else, not even salt, and baked within 18 minutes. That's what's kosher for matzah. However, since this is from the Torah, we want our matzah to be baked with kavanah. What is shmura matzah? Shmura means that the wheat from which the matzah has been, the flour has been ground, has been guarded against moisture from the time that it was harvested. So that's shmura matzah as opposed to regular matzah. Most people, many people are machmir to eat shmura matzah for the mitzvah of matzah, even if they don't normally. Big dispute about is it better to use hand or machine. Those who say hand say because it's made with the kavanah that this and is. And if you see matzah being baked, they're saying the whole time, l'shem matzah mitzvah. This is being done for the mitzvah. Those who do machine say there's less room for human error because we're talking about flour, water in 18 minutes. A machine can do it without human error, so probably better. And how do you get around it? The guy, when you flip the switch, the machine's working. When you flip the switch, you say l'shem matzah mitzvah. Okay, this is an argument. So when you go to somebody's house, be respectful. But if you have a definite preference, bring your own matzah, which is something acceptable to do. Bring your own matzah on Pesach night. How much is a kazayit? Well, how much is a kazayit? So I gave you here, this is like this is like taken from some from the OU, some from Chabad. There's a lot of really, really good stuff here. Okay. And you have here on the last page, minimum quantity of matzah. Okay. He says here 1/3 of an average machine-made matzah. That's pretty much mainstream halacha, but definitely there are people who are much more machmir than this, and they're eating like, okay. If you're hosting a Seder, try to do it in a way that people can choose their own, to make their own, because the person who has the bit matzahs in front of them, if you're doing one Seder plate, can give out little pieces so that you're eating a token bit from that, but then people fill up their own, what they feel to be a kazayit. I think the nicest way to do it is let people choose their own so that you're not, either with chumrah or with kula, telling them what you think they should do. The matzah is eating while reclining, and again, between 4 to 8 or 9 minutes. Yes.
The size of an average man-made machine made matter. So there's the boxes. Okay.
Some will say that, some will say half, some will say, I mean, you'll definitely hear people saying much more machmir, but this is definitely acceptable.
Is there an opinion by weight instead of?
So the way that it works by weight is that you take the matzah and then you shmush it up, and then you do as if, this is like chemistry, as if there was no water in it, and you shmush it up and you get it into a shot glass. And then I mean, if you'll go into the internet, you'll see all different ways of doing this.
Weigh it?
So it's like volume, not really weight.
Right, it's volume, but it's based, they say it's based on volume, not of the piece itself, but volume of it like shmushed up. Okay, so there are different views, but this is pretty much people who've done the math and doing it. Of course, there are Sfardim who use soft matzahs, and soft matzahs is much, much less because it's, okay, you have to eat much, much less of a soft matzah. Okay, there's a difference of opinion if Ashkenazim can eat soft matzah or not. But some say they can. Definitely anyone for whom it's better for their health, should you do it. It's better to eat a nice share of soft matzah than not be able to eat a lot of the hard matzah. The soft matzah was the original matzah. Because when we're talking about the korech that Hillel used to do it, what does korech mean?
Sandwich.
No, what does korech mean? Wrap. Okay, so it's like what we call today a wrap, like a tortilla or a lapa. It was wrap. Now you have that hard matzah, there's no way you can wrap it. The soft matzah, you wrap. That's how it was. You took the Pesach. It was like a shawarma because you had the lamb and the lettuce and then so it was. So korech is that. So the soft matzah is definitely much closer to what the sources have. Maror. We know the Mishnah tells us 5 types of maror. We don't know what most of them are. The only 2 that we're pretty sure of what they are today are what we call romaine lettuce, which in Israel is just called chalva, or horseradish. The Mishnah gives them in the order of bitter. So the top one on the list is what we call the romaine lettuce. In Ashkenazi Jewry, the horseradish took this because that's what they had. Because in Eastern Europe, without modern agricultural techniques, no green stuff was growing at this time of year.
So it's better to have romaine than horseradish.
Yes, it's very good. The chasa, the romaine, is better to have than the horseradish, but there are definitely people who feel they want to go with it because maror horseradish is not bitter. Horseradish is sharp. Romaine lettuce, the stalks of romaine lettuce are bitter. Horseradish isn't bitter. It's sharp, but it's not bitter. And here again, you have the minimum amounts. The maror is the one thing which is eaten without weaning, because it reminds us of the bitterness. It reminds us of the slavery. So maror is eaten without, and then we have the korech Hillel, which is the matzah and maror eaten together. And now it's time for the meal of the Seder.
I heard that like the lead should fill like an A4 piece of paper. That's
Yeah.
true.
Is that what he says here, reads enough to cover 8 by 10. Okay, that's what it says here. But there are other opinions. Okay, this is the OU handout sheet, which is pretty much mainstream, but there are other opinions.
What was the rate?
8 by 10 inches.
That's a lot.
It's like a big lettuce leaf.
Oh, to cover.
Romaine lettuce, yeah. Like a romaine lettuce leaf. You can also, I think, in Osherad, you can buy one of these plastic things that you can use to do that.
No, 1 minute.
Okay, and now we eat the meal. We obviously don't go to wash because we washed before the matzah. Some people have the custom of starting the meal with an egg. The egg from the kara can be eaten as part of the meal, and some have the minhag to do it. The bone of the zroa You're not allowed to eat that much because it would look like you're eating Korban Pesach. Now, look like you're eating Korban Pesach is another thing that we really go overboard about. The reason being that there were those who did Korban Pesach without a Beit HaMikdash. And so that we don't want to look, it shouldn't be married ayin, that we're doing this after the time of the Beit HaMikdash. The custom is that we do not eat any meat which has been roasted on Pesach on the night of the Seder. We don't eat roasted meat on the night of the Seder. According to most, it's anything which is what you would call fresh. So it could also be chicken or things like that. Roasted meaning cooked either in the oven or cooked dry, even like a pot or something, but cooked dry. So the most common opinion is that the meat that you eat on Seder night should be immersed in fluid, should be cooked, immersed in fluid.
But that could be from the oven, like a brisket or something.
No, not a brisket, because it looks, I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. I mean, not ridiculous, but it goes too far because you're pulling something out. Nobody's going to say, oh, she's doing it. But one night a year, so make your brisket like a pot roast.
Okay.
Okay. One night a year, one meal a year. Okay, make meatball. I mean, there's enough things you can do, but okay. And it only applies to meat, so you can make roast vegetables or roast fish or things like that. Okay.
So corned beef in the oven?
What?
No corned beef in the oven?
Correct. Corned beef is dry in the oven, right?
Oh, no.
You can make like a brisket.
But there's in England not England, New England corned beef is made in a pot.
And
How, how?
One meal a year. One meal a year.
I'm just trying to think of what our Seders look like.
One meal a year.
yeah. That might not be the Pesach.
What?
If she goes home and her parents make something that doesn't follow this,
Right, I'm
if
also-
if it's already
Right.
cooked.
It's okay. I can go without corned beef for a night. That's okay.
So
But
bad
just
for it.
then I have to tell my
Do you have to? Because everyone's so full from the matzah. People are really looking what you're eating.
yes.
Okay.
She makes it specifically for me.
Oh. See, ask her to make it for the next meal.
Okay.
Like we always have
Ask her to make it for lunch.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we always have chicken.
we have
in the
chicken,
oven.
but it's.
Okay.
Is it
What?
allowed? Is it okay?
This, and now, by the way, this custom is across the board Ashkenazi Sephardi, except
Like, yeah, nothing
for
else.
Yemenites. The Yemenites have the opposite custom.
Two heads.
They eat roast lamb, like lamb chops.
yes,
If
Yeah.
there's liquid in it, you can have it.
Soft
Or no?
I said there are those who are makel that if it's covered in liquid, even if it's in the oven,
Same thing on it, just
what? Or if it was baked, they also if it was baked and then afterwards warmed in liquid, it's also okay as long as the final.
Okay.
Like
It's okay if you make all that when I go.
if you make something and you make it and then after you make a roast beef and then afterwards you cook it in a
Yeah.
sauce or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom cooks it in sauce.
Okay, so then it's cooked on top of the fire afterwards in the sauce.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and again, there are more machmir,
Yeah,
less
yeah,
machmir,
yeah, yeah.
but you can be that if it's afterwards cooked in a sauce, you can get away with that. Okay.
Okay.
Again, it's one meal. Okay, and I know you're in your other's house.
Our
but it's-
family,
yeah, I know. Okay,
yeah.
but when you're planning it, you
I
okay.
don't have that here.
People are not hungry. Okay. I mean, I
No,
say
I'm
this,
not
and
hungry.
and
I don't
every
eat
year,
anything
I can say this, I can say it when I'm teaching, but I will overcook. I will cook and cook and cook, and I will say, oh, there's not enough, and cook more and cook more and cook more. So I mean, but then it is, and okay, but the halacha is that at the end of the meal, you have to eat the afikomen, a kazayit of the matzah of the afikomen, and you're not allowed to eat what is called achila gasa, disgusting eating, meaning that you're so full that you stuff yourself. So you have to pace yourself, okay? Now remember, you started the meal with eating all this matzah and maror, and so it's not usually, but so, okay, and definitely if you're hosting a meal, don't be offended, okay? I mean, every year this happens to me. Every year my husband said, you don't have to make so many things, and I make so many things, and I make more and more and more. And then I say, nobody likes my food, whatever. And then he comes in and very lovingly says, no, everything looks good, but if it didn't say in the Shulchan Aruch that you can't eat the afikomen achilagasa, I would eat it. But okay, but realize that the afikomen, now the afikomen should be eaten by chatzot. Chatzot, we're going to be changing the clock. It's going to be, I didn't look exactly at it, but it's usually like at around 12:40-ish, something like that, okay? Usually something like that. The afikomen should be eaten by chatzot. There are those who are machmir to finish the 4 cups by chatzot. There are those who, okay, to finish because that's the obligation. Most people say it's just the afikomen. But if you go to somebody's Seder, Rav Shai Schachter, who was the son of Rav Hershel Schachter, the Rosh Kola of YU, see, he said that he used to go to went to like more Haredi yeshivas, and after Pesach, everyone would go. His father's like one of the giant Talmidei Chachamim of this generation, and the Rebbe would go around when he was a little boy in school. How long was your Seder? And they would say 2, 3, whatever. They would get up to him. Shai, how long was your Seder? What time did you finish the Seder? And he would say 11:30. They were like, what kind of a home do you come from?
We
It's
say
like,
ours is still going.
what?
We say ours is still going.
Right, but Chabad says that. Chabad, that's why some in Chabad don't say what some people say at the end of the Seder. There's like this poem, Chasar Sidur Pesach, we have finished the Seder. Some Chabad minhag is to not say that because Chabad says that the Seder is Rosh Hashanah for education and that it never ends.
Interesting.
So
We
that's
say
why
it
they don't
still.
say that. So in some Chabad Haggadahs, you won't see that poem. Yes.
So if the afikomen is the last thing we're supposed to eat, so do you serve dessert?
That's after dessert.
What was that?
It's after, I mean, it depends. You have to pace yourself with chatzot.
Is dessert during Shulchan Aruch?
Yeah. And afikomen is really dessert. I know. Every year I say, what should I make for dessert? My husband says, afikomen is dessert. I say, okay, fine. But what should I make for dessert? Okay, but the afikomen is supposed to be, except for the 2 cups of wine, it's supposed to be the last thing that you eat. Okay, so that's
So when then you have the 2 cups of wine off.
what? And you have 2 cups of wine after. You have the one of the benching and then the one of the challah. The last thing is you're supposed to be, the last thing that in your mouth is like the food is supposed to be the afikomen. Okay, but you can eat whatever you want, like, except for the tzli, the roast. You can do whatever you want for the meal. Okay. Any more questions about the mitzvot of Seder night? Okay, you want to go to Rami Levy? No, no.
What are we doing?
No, Rami Levy is for people who want to know about Hechsherim. For Pesach, but if you all know it, then we definitely do not have to go to Rami
I
Levy.
have a question. Just
Yeah.
Are
I mean, if you want to ask the questions in class, it's also fine.
are the same hechsherim that we follow right now okay for Pesach? As long as it's
Generally, yes, but you have the kitniyot issue.
right, but it usually says with
Yeah,
or without
it usually
meal.
says, yeah.
Okay.
But you have to be careful because the badatz Eida Haredit is so machmir for Pesach that they won't give their hashkacha on something that was made in a plant that had kitniyot.
Oh.
So yeah,
There was a product I bought it today.
there's some
it
product that
said-
very often will say
It said
kosher Pesach lo korel habadatz. The badatz not only doesn't give the hefker, but they require if you want to have if you're a product that want to have badatz all year or a company that want to have it all year on Pesach you must write the kosher Pesach does not include the badatz. The badatz is not for Pesach. Okay, so you'll see that. I once had a story. I think I told you this about somebody who called me. It was like on the first night of Chol Moed, and my phone rings, and I see it's a student who I was actually close to. It was years ago, really. Okay, and she's hysterical. I know she's engaged, and she's hysterically crying, and I'm sure she's going to tell me that they broke up or something, right? And she said, if I wouldn't have seen her name, I wouldn't have known who it is. She's so hysterical. She's trying to tell me, and she says, and she's just crying. I said, okay, please drink something. Let's talk about it, okay? And then she says, I'm going to die. And then I'm like, oh no, like what was she dying? And I'm like, really? Okay. And then I said, okay, let's sit down, let's talk about it, okay? Sit down, drink something for quite a while. And she says, he can't marry me because I'm going to die. And then I'm like, okay. And she said, I'm going to get curried. And I'm like, okay. And I'm sure that she's going to tell me that she had a piece of bread. And I'll tell her it was b'shogeg, you're not going to get curried, it's okay. And I said, okay, what happened? She said, I ate potato chips and it says, kosher Pesach lo korel habadatz.
No.
Yes. And I
So
explained this to her, and I said, look, it's not even kidney oil, it's potato chips and palm oil. It's not. It's just because they also make Bamba at the same company. It says it. Like it took a long time to get that. So realize that and think about what you can do. You can do a Haredi everything, but realize that you're not going to find a whole lot of stuff.
Can you just go over what is normally said on like packaging when it goes around your every like
What
for
is what?
example, like it will say the for that one.
What?
What will
And
it
what
say?
are the
Like what else would they say on the packaging that we should be aware of?
Okay, and the packaging is usually will be kitniot, or I mean the name of the hechsher,
Yeah.
le'ochrei kitniot, or le'loch shash kitniot, and then there are questionable kitniot, which we spoke about. So sometimes, for example, we talked about that canola is very questionable. So the Rabbanut will not allow you to write no kitniot on something which is called liftit. Liftit is like an emulsifier, which is made out of canola oil. But many Ashkenazim do eat canola. So many like chocolate, so the Rabbanut won't let you write without kitniot, but a lot of the elite chocolate will say something like mechil liftit. It includes liftit, and then you can decide if you eat canola, then you can eat that. So that's an important word to know. Liftit. What? Liftit is an important word. And it's in a lot of like good stuff, like basically chocolates and things like that. So that's liftit.
is that why like in Chabad there's a general custom to not have processed food, but a lot of people will eat processed food but not chocolate.
I don't know if it's because of that, because you can get Ashkenazi chocolate, which Ashkenazi chocolate doesn't have that either. So I don't know.
Thank you.
Okay, you can get that. Okay, this is also the time when they import a lot of like Swiss chocolate and things like that have. Okay. Okay, you all know how to find me. So if you have other Pesach questions, okay, just WhatsApp me.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I will probably give you different answers